Everybody say hey.
Hey.
Listen, we are live and we are ready. As we give you all time to log on, we want you to make sure that you tell us where you're coming from. Where are you viewing from tonight? So as you log on, go ahead and tell us what state you're in. We are so excited about tonight's conversation, and we want as many viewers as possible. So we need you to share this video. We want you to spread it to all your followers. Copy the link, paste it, text it out. Do whatever you can do. My name is Dr. Eboni Bell, and I'm the host of All Things Women Talk Show. The purpose of this talk show is to give people a platform to be able to share their experiences, to tell their stories, and to be able to perhaps bring some wisdom and enlightenment to the audience on various issues, just everyday issues that we deal with tonight as men and women. Now the show is definitely targeting women, but tonight I'm so excited because look who we have here. We have an amazing panel of men and women, and February is all about love and relationships. And so this evening, everyone that you are looking at outside of myself is single, meaning not married. So I'm just intrigued, and we've been having some amazing conversation already. So as you're logging on, go ahead and share the video for us, and we're going to be getting right into the discussion in just a moment. But a couple of things. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, All Things Women Talk Show, and follow us on Instagram at All Things Women TV. You can also catch the replays of all episodes on YouTube at our channel, All Things Women Talk Show. So hopefully we have some viewers going. How's it looking, ladies? Alyssa, we have our queen behind the camera this evening.
Yep.
She will be taking your questions and your comments. So anytime we're talking about something and we have a question or a comment, we want you to type that in because you are our live audience. So I'm going to give my panelists a minute to go ahead and share the video from their pages if they have not done that yet. Tell everybody to tune in. You're going to have to go to my page, Eboni Bell, and just push share. Yes, so we have some viewers. We're live. We're giving you guys a couple of minutes. Awesome. So log on. Tell us where you're from. What state are you in? Awesome. All right.
That's it.
Looking good. Looking good. Awesome. So just remember, if you have a question or a comment, we want to hear it from you. And as we're getting ourselves together, we do want you to know that we do have a live painter this evening, none other than Mr. James Wyatt of Women Together. And he is over there creating a masterpiece. He's our guest artist for the evening. So every piece of art that we create on the show, all proceeds go towards a scholarship for any high school senior who wants to major in education, arts, or media. So check out all the paintings from all the different shows. Stay tuned for the big art show that we're going to be having to raise money for that scholarship. But look, let's get on into the conversation, you guys. The reason why we're here tonight, again, is about love and relationships. But specifically, I wanted to bring the male perspective in because I feel like so many times females just don't know. You know, we make all kinds of assumptions. We watch the movies, you know, we look at Love and Basketball, you know, and try to get a perspective. But many times we don't really get to hear from the men, and so that is the reason we have them here today. So let's introduce each other and find out who everybody is on the panel. So I'm gonna let the ladies kick it off tonight. Taylor, you want to kick it off? Who are you?
Well, hello, everybody and everybody on there. My name is Taylor. I am 27 years old. I'm born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. Went away to college in Louisiana, came back home to go to law school. I am an advocate by purpose, and so that's manifested itself in many ways in my profession, ministry, community. Currently, I'm working in civil rights, and I plan to start a nonprofit law firm, criminal defense and civil rights.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Trina Coleman, I'm 32 years old. Right, I want to be younger than I am. I'm 32 years old. currently an entrepreneur, formerly worked for Capital One, working with agile methodology, which is basically how to define the definition of done. And I use that actually in my personal and professional life. Born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. And I don't know, I'm just a real laid back person. I like to go to the gym and relax, read books sometimes just to kind of clear my mind and get a different perspective. So I read different kind of books all day. Yes.
Awesome.
Next. So my name is Kanita Benson. We're supposed to tell our age, so I am 35. I am an independent gospel artist, an international young women's advocate, and a short-term cross-cultural / global missionary. I love my life, my purpose. I have a master's degree in organizational leadership, specifically for nonprofits and advocacy. So when you said that, I got really excited. My heart is for global advocacy, and I recently started a campaign for internally displaced girls in Kenya on my last trip there. So I have a deep passion for seeing people just reach their full potential, and to really help to meet people's needs through music, through missions, and through nonprofit work.
Awesome.
Hi everybody, I am Rose. I am from the great state of New Jersey. I am in higher education, so I'm an educator by heart. I love anything artsy, so plays, live music, everything arts you can think of. That is me. I'm the girl.
Awesome.
First of all, I'm impressed. I'm giant and let go. I'm just Jason. From the Bronx, I don't really do much. Nah, my name is Jason Aviles. Born and raised in the Bronx. I currently live in downtown Wilmington. I have a yoga company, Fly Yogi. I teach yoga in schools, mindfulness meditation in corporate environments and communities, and I'm also involved in, as well as doing a lot of advocate work in the community, working with youth, dealing now with agriculture and access issues with food deserts, and that's a little bit about myself.
Hello, Facebook world. Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Ashley. Everybody knows me as Magic. I had that name since I was 13. We're not going to go too much further about that. I also work in higher education. I have a master's degree in guidance and counseling. I work as an athletic academic advisor at Delaware State University. I'm from Newcastle, Delaware. One thing that I do outside of that, I work with a foundation called Kind of Kids Foundation, where I go to the detention center on Thursdays, and I work with at-risk youth. I do it as a tool to teach life skills and try to help reduce the recidivism rate and things of that nature.
Awesome.
My name is Charles Robinson Sneed. I'm 24 years old. Born and raised in Laurel, Delaware, so I'm from Sussex County. I went to Delaware State University, graduated in 2014 with a bachelor's degree in psychology. Currently getting my master's degree in clinical counseling psychology at Eastern University with a concentration, with a concentration in applied behavior analysis. I'm also currently a full-time intern at Pennsylvania Forensic Associates, and I work full-time at Delaware State University as an admissions counselor as well.
Y'all better be educated on this. Love it.
As far as hobbies are concerned, I write poetry and spoken word.
Nice.
My name is James L.A. Thompson. I'm 28. I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware. My whole life, I love it here. I went to Lincoln University where I studied physics. And after that, me and my friend, my colleagues, business partner, started a computer-aided drafting company. We specialize in building information models. And I'm into tech. My job is tech. I'm surrounded by tech. I like drones, virtual reality, build computers. I love everything tech.
Wow, nice.
I love drones. Like that.
I'm just Chris. I'm Chris Hillman from Buffalo, New York. I went to did my undergrad in a small little town called Fredonia. Got my bachelor's in sports management. I moved on to Canisius with my master's in sports administration. Moved here about 2 months ago, and now I'm an advisor at Delaware State. I'm 27 years old.
Wow.
Hawk Pride forever.
Wow. Well, just in case you're tuning in and you don't know who I am.
See how I go away.
It's going to be interesting evening. But just in case you don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Eboni Bell, and I actually did go to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore as well. I have a bachelor's in English and a minor in television and radio broadcasting. I have a master's degree in guidance and counseling, and I have a doctorate degree in educational leadership with a specialization in organizational leadership. So I'm an educator, artist, and a media personality. And I'm just here to use the gifts God gave me to hopefully help you this evening. So, of course, I love everything artsy. Seems like this panel is just, I really don't have words. In case you were wondering if there were any amazing single people out in the world still, they are. And many of them are here in the room this evening. So with that being said, we're going to begin the evening with some interaction. And all of the guests this evening have signs that say either yes
Or no.
no, or it depends. So why don't we jump right into the conversation? Have you been in a serious relationship in the past year? Now make sure y'all let the audience see your answers now. Okay. He said, what the really? Oh, okay. Okay. Let me see. Hold on. Don't be shy now. Okay. Have you ever been in a relationship that lasted more than 2 to 3 years? Like a long-term relationship? Okay.
Do you count
We
off
have
and on?
all yeses.
You count off and on?
My man, you can always count on you.
People do count off and on.
Yeah. So yes, that's a good question.
That should be more often.
So everybody, would you compromise your happiness for the success of a relationship? It's a hard question,
I
man.
have to be honest.
Oh, this is all male, like right now.
Oh, okay.
It depends. It depends.
Happiness
So
is a big
because we
thing.
have it depends, then we need some follow-up on that.
Definitely.
Because what does that depend on? What does that depend on?
Let's say I'm married and my wife gets a job that's paying 2 times and it's something that she really want to do, then I'll sacrifice what I'm doing for that.
Okay.
If I can find a job. It
Okay.
might be a little tough, but I'll do what I got to do to make her happy.
And it sounds like you would do what you needed to do to be sure the unit
Yeah.
is where it needs to be,
Yeah.
which is paramount in marriage.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great answer.
Yeah, so I said depends too. I was kind of thinking along the lines of marriage also. Just because you're not always going to be happy. Like there's going to be ups and downs.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
what keeps you is the commitment to your marriage. And so, yes, I would.
Okay.
I'll write it out until the happiness comes.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I mean, what is the definition of happiness?
Yeah, I think I was
Let's
kind
go
of
there. Let's go there.
And the reason why I put no is based off the simple fact that, like, no matter what relationship or whatever you're doing, like, happiness should never be deprived. So what I mean by that is, like, if I'm with my partner, yes, happiness is supposed to be there, but why give that up? Because that's my question to you.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't agree. I mean, I think like joy, when you're talking about joy versus happiness, joy is something that you can maintain, that you can always hold on to. But happiness is circumstantial.
Yeah.
So you hit road bumps in your relationship that you may get to a point where you then start to sacrifice your happiness. But I feel like if it's worth working for and it's worth fighting for, then you'll get that happiness back.
Right. So you may sacrifice it for a moment. And I had to do that. I mean, I've only been married for 6 years, 6.5. And there have been seasons in my life where I didn't feel like I was where I wanted to be. But I just, I knew that at some point we would get back to where we were supposed to be. And then he goes through the same thing. Here, he wouldn't come tonight, y'all, but he went with the boys. Yes.
I said it depends, and I said it depends pretty much in the aspect of purpose, because a lot of times what makes us happy necessarily isn't in line with our purpose.
Okay.
So I think of it in that way. So if I feel like what we are, or if I think that what we are going to sacrifice is beneficial to the purpose that we serve in this world, then yeah. But if not, then we have to rethink some things and reevaluate what the situation is, because sometimes things that necessarily make us happy only for the moment or temporarily. And we can jump too early, and then it can make us happy for a moment. But if we do it out of our time and out of that season, it'll definitely be detrimental to whatever our purpose is.
I have a follow-up question for you guys. How important do you think it is to have a vision for your relationship, even if you're not married?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jason, touch on that for me, Jason.
Absolutely important, because I feel like, at least for most of us, I'm thinking, especially with the careers that we're all on, I think we're at a point in our lives where we're ready for a serious committed relationship. So we're not just thinking about the short term, the temporary, the things that we're doing in between. We're thinking about someone that we can kind of share our lives with. And that requires some long-term goals. That requires a vision that is kind of complementing to each other's lifestyles and each other's way of beings. Because now I'm looking, in the future. Now I'm making sure that I'm with a person that I can rely and depend on, and also be there to support, not just as who they are today, but as who they kind of plan and develop and growing into. So that requires that conversation. And I feel like any serious committed relationship should, in fact, have that conversation about what is it that you want and how is it that we fit in each other's lives and feelings.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's get rid of the cards. So I'm feeling this right now. So listen. A lot of people always want to know, how does this is for males and females, how do you figure out like the type of person you need to be able to assist you in fulfilling your purpose and your destiny? And have any of you figured that out? And if so, what is that? What does that look like?
I know.
Okay.
I know
What does that look like? She's like, yes.
I
have a list.
And that's the reason why I think that right now I'm so single, and I'm grateful for that, because I believe that God made an investment in me. And every decision that I make in every relationship I have has to give him a return on that investment. It's going to impact that investment. It's going to impact legacy. It's going to impact generations, and it's that serious.
Okay.
So for me, not everyone that I've been involved with in the past has understood the uniqueness of my calling. One being a singer. A lot of times, I don't know if you ever heard about people dating musicians or singers and their schedules and things like that, and being at rehearsals and being creative and having to travel a lot. And then having a mindset of just being involved in ministry. And I'm really close with my parents, and I listen to their wisdom. I listen to wives, married couples for that kind of accountability. And I firmly believe that you do not marry a person's potential. You marry their purpose, you marry their patterns. And so I think for me, having someone who really understands the calling of ministry, their relationship with God has to just be a certain way. It can't be something that's like a casual thing because of the nature of what I have to do. And I'm fully prepared to support him in that same way. But I just think it really takes that magnitude of seriousness.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask a question, but real quick. If you're watching us, first of all, thanks for tuning in, and do us a favor and share the video so we can get as many people watching this video and gaining this wisdom as possible. But I want somebody to talk about what it means to be unequally yoked. That is a question that comes up all the time. And it's so funny. My husband is a pastor. I forgot to say that. But he did a teaching like 2 weeks ago. And the question came up actually from Melissa, what does it look like to be unequally yoked? And he actually found a picture he explained what it means. So basically, the picture was of a yoke is something that like two cows would balance on themselves. And so the stronger one, of course, if the other one is not as strong, if the one on the right is not as strong as the one on the left, then there's an imbalance, and you can't walk.
Yeah.
I mean, or you're going to drag the other person, so to speak. And so when he showed us that picture, I mean, it was amazing because it gave you a visual of what it looks like to be unequally yoked. And that's where that term actually comes from, is that exact scenario. And so if one person is stronger than the other, and it could be in any area, but who wants to touch on that unequally yoked thing? And have you ever been in a relationship where you were unequally yoked, but you still trying to make it work?
Yeah. I have, and it's the toughest thing ever. Like, that's something I prayed on going forward. Like, I really prayed to God, and I'm like, when I prayed for my husband after reading your book, you know, you pray for your husband. I need to be at least equal.
Yeah.
Because it drains you.
Yeah,
it drains everything in you to make sure that person, you know, because first and foremost, especially when it's a male that's below a woman, in a sense, or
Are you speaking spiritually?
no, I'm not even speaking spiritually.
Okay.
I'm speaking as far as just in a relationship.
Okay.
So when you're not equally yoked in a relationship, and the man, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, a man's ego gets in the way, and that impacts the relationship. So I just know that can no longer be my relationship.
Talk about that. Respond to that. The man's ego and his pride, because I'm curious about that.
I would say it definitely plays a big part, into the relationship. But I would say this, and this is for me personally. I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm actually ready to be with a woman who's smarter than me, who's better than me in certain ways, who can help me grow in ways in which I haven't been able to grow myself. So I think, to truly understand, what that terminology means when you say unequally yoked, I think that there has to be an element of being able to, at some degree or at some level, be able to understand that there's going to be a balancing act of strengths and weaknesses on the relationship.
Absolutely. Great point.
And in areas where, I'm going to need work, and that's where I'm going to be looking for my woman to be strong in, and vice versa.
Makes sense. Yes.
So I think at the same time, there has to be a sharing of core values. And in order to have those core values shared, one has to understand themselves first and foremost, and what they need and what they're looking for in the person that they're looking to be committed to, and vice versa. So I think it's a very tricky kind of place and balance,
I kind of see where you're coming
to find.
You just got to make sure you find that person that's willing to grow with you. Then, because if they're not willing to grow, then I guess that's where the conflict comes. And if they're not willing to grow, I guess that was my past experience. The person just wasn't willing to grow.
Because I can't say that I'm willing to stand for a woman who may be perhaps perceived as being under me, and at the same time, in the same breath, ask for a woman that can lift me up. Because
do men need that? Do you all feel that you need that? Can somebody else expand on that? I really believe, and audience, I know y'all should be clapping right now. I'm about to help y'all out. I really believe that many times we're taught as women, of course, number one, the man's supposed to be the head of the household. We're taught that the man is the main provider. We're taught all these different things, not just from our parents and friends and family, from TV, from all different angles. We're taught almost that the man, should be stronger. But I've, in my own personal life, I know my husband would attest to this. There are times where he has admitted to me, like, I needed you to be strong right there. I was weak right there, and thank you for stepping up. And so in times, in my first 2 years of marriage, I wouldn't step up because I had this notion or this so-called wisdom that he was supposed to lead everything. Right. And me being a strong and independent woman, I was by myself for 5 years before my husband and I had a big gap in between long-term relationships.
It's called reality.
Yeah, absolutely. But we don't ever hear from men that, you guys need us. So talk about that. Talk to the audience.
I guess what I can say from my standpoint of working in higher education and being you knew me as a basketball coach, the plethora of variables that I had to deal with when dealing with kids' emotional standpoints, the educational aspect, just overall being strong. Sometimes I just want to come home and just hopefully one day lay on my wife's thigh. And she rub my bald head and be like, yo, how was how was your day?
That is really cute.
How was your day? And I just want to be able to be like, yo, you don't understand. You know, but you know, as the perception that y'all hear about what men supposed to be strong all day, like yes, we're supposed to, but we want to come home and feel like we can just
be vulnerable.
And that's the correct word, which is what I struggle with. I struggle with being vulnerable.
Why do you struggle with that?
As an adult now, I can really speak on it. I never had a father, and I come from an incarcerated family. Like my mother did 13 years in federal prison, so the nourishment and variables that you think I'm supposed to have, I never had. And I love my mom every day for what I went through because I'm able to talk about it. And that's why I work with some of the kids that I work with outside of basketball, because I understand that y'all came from environments where you created your own structure. You feel as if, okay, whatever I do, this is what I got to do to provide. No, it's not. You know, so that's why I always stay positive, as you always know, because people, you'd never known that. But I had to build my own kind of self-efficacy to talk about that. You know, because, you know, you got to think about it. I get into a fight or I have an argument with a female, I don't have nobody to talk to. I got to wait for a collect call. You know, so it's like, now Richard has to process how I go about things. And, you know, I think the one thing that has humbled me was that God gave me the responsibility while my mom was locked up to raise 3 girls, which are my sisters. You know, and, you know, the one thing that I tell my sisters is, it's going to be hard. Because your brother don't know everything. Try my best doing the little ponytails and all like that. You know, but, you know, at the end of the day, I'm happy to see my 2 sisters graduate from college. You know, my 13-year-old sister is doing the junior deltas, and it's funny to talk to a 13-year-old that makes sense. You know, like, hey brother, I know you're gonna get paid in a couple weeks.
At 13,
at 13,
she already knows.
But what, you know, staying back on topic is just understanding that there's a lot of things that I don't know that I had to learn on my own. And you know, among my journey, was it rough? Yeah, but I'm appreciative to be around good people such as yourself with this panel, and I'm here for growth. I'm not afraid to learn. You know, that's what life is about.
I was just thinking about this as a question to the guys. I think I'm fortunate because I have my family has 3 brothers and my dad. I have no sisters, and so I've had an opportunity to hear a male perspective. It hasn't always been consistent in relationships, though. So I would love to know from you guys, you know, more about that vulnerability and about encouragement, because I've actually talked to married girlfriends of mine who struggle to learn how to really encourage their man. And for me, that's something that's easy. You know, like, it's so crazy because I've had, you know, just from my personal experience, I've had somebody say I encouraged him too much. And I'm like, I thought that the woman was supposed to be your biggest cheerleader. You know, so I would
and at first I'll say this, being born as a man, you know, as a black man, at that, it's very challenging because we're born into a paradigm, a culture of thinking that really prevents us and creates barriers from us seeing and identifying ourselves as we are. You know, we're seeing through the world's lens of what a man should be, but not necessarily what a man is, and we don't have the blueprint. You know, we don't have the fathers, we don't have the mentors or positive male role models to say, listen, you know, this is how you should love a woman. This is how much you should be willing to bend and be flexible, as well as be supportive and be strong. We learn these things by making mistakes. We learn these things through suffering. We learn these things through hurting people, and therefore we are hurt, and that hurt then starts to carry out and translate into unproductive, ineffective, inefficient relationships with women. But I will say this, I feel like what's happening here is that there's this inability for people to meet and see people as they are, not as they think they should be.
Yes, that's good.
So what's happening is, I think that as a man, because of society, you need to look like this, walk like this, do like this. But I'm not seeing you as you are. I'm not seeing you as your story. I'm not seeing you as your uniqueness, as you were born and as you are a gift to me and to this world as a whole.
Right.
So that inability to really just see people is getting in the way of us supporting and standing for each other. That is really supportive towards the long-term goal, which for me, relationships is essential to life. And we're here to be in relationship, whether it be intimate or not.
Right.
But we can't engage and share in relationship if we can't see ourselves and therefore see each other on the level in which we want to be seen. And that takes self-acceptance. And it's the most hardest thing as a black man these days, to look in the mirror and to say, I don't have to be what the world wants me to be, I can be myself.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely want you all to continue that conversation, and then we're going to take a question from the audience.
Yeah, speaking on what you said, it's pretty much as a black man, I think it's really important to first understand that everybody's vulnerability comes in different ways and at different times.
Yeah.
And I think, and I use myself as an example, and just as a black man as an example, many times in the black communities or cultural communities, the black boy is told, don't cry.
Yeah.
The black boy is told, crying is for sissies, crying is for girls.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you're then telling me now, and I think a lot of parents don't even recognize it or realize it, that you are causing an emotional disposition in your child as a young black boy.
Yes.
And so as I grow in my physical body, my emotional development has been stunted. And so how can I even properly express myself to a woman emotionally and in vulnerability if I haven't been able to develop in that way?
Yeah.
And so, for example, as a kid, I was told that. And then, so you already learn as a little black boy that you can't cry, you can't show emotion, and that you can't even express yourself in your feelings and your emotions. Same time, at 6 years old, I was sexually molested. Being transparent, right? Sexually molested. And so then I'm now thinking I can't express myself so nobody can know this. And so at that time, growing up, you go through emotional dispositions and stunting your development emotionally. Then I can't even tell anybody what has happened to me. So now I'm confused as who I am as a man and what am I even supposed to do? And so then I also at that same time have a stepfather who's teaching me and my little brother, my older brother, how to live in a cheating relationship. And so all these things are happening at the same time. And so they're all growing with me so now my emotions are not developing properly, but I'm growing in this way as a young boy who is not expressing myself emotionally, as a young black boy who is confused in my identity and my sexuality, as a young boy who is being taught that cheating on a woman is what a man is because my mother accepted it. And so all of these things carried with me into my relationships. And so my vulnerability point came in my submission to Christ. And I think that was a powerful point because I could be in a relationship with a female and do X, Y, and Z outside of it with no problem at all. And I could come back to her and not even speak about it. You know what I mean? And all because I thought that I can't express these things. And all because I thought that these things are not going to be accepted by anybody. And so that was pretty much my issue with vulnerability. Like I said, when because I grew up in church, but even with that, the relationship with Christ wasn't authentic. And so until I fully submitted to Him, that's when my vulnerability broke, and I can openly speak about these things and help people out who are going through the same situations. And so I think it's really important for women to understand that every man's vulnerability point is going to come in a different way and at a different time. But to definitely be patient in that way and be willing to, one, hear Him out, and do not turn your back on Him in that time.
That's so good.
Because so many times, don't condemn Him. Because we already have had backs turned on us from sharing. So if we trust in you that we are going to have confidence in this relationship, then we need you to be there throughout the whole
Wow,
situation.
that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's incredible. That's incredible.
it resonated with me, right? Because like I've been single for 3 years, right? And I went through a dark period. When I say a dark period, I'm talking about depression, everything. Because in my last relationship, I felt like I lost myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to be Trina once I came out that relationship.
Wow.
So I went through a dark period. And when I tell you, I resonate with you saying you didn't really, like, I was always raised in the church too. So you really don't learn to really love Christ and really develop that relationship until you go through a dark period, whatever your dark period is.
Yeah.
So when I went through my dark period, I'm telling you guys, like I sat in my apartment in darkness. I cried for days. I prayed for days. I just prayed because I didn't even recognize the person you look in the mirror to. So I could have makeup on all day, look the prettiest I thought I looked, but I didn't feel it inside. So I realized at that point I had to remain single because I lost myself.
Yeah.
So to then jump into another relationship after another relationship, all I'm going to do is taint the relationships. I'm not going to be able to be there for my mate when he becomes vulnerable because I'm already vulnerable myself. So, I mean, what you said, it resonated because it was really a dark period for me that I went through too. And just learning how to love myself. And now that I've learned to love myself, and now I feel like when my relationship does come, I'm able to give my all because now I know who I am.
Right.
I know what I want out of life, and I know how to now treat my mate, and I know that I can no longer allow his problems to become my problems to then consume me and allow me to lose myself in the process. So.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Wow, powerful stuff. So can we take a question or a comment? And I know they're probably. I know they're ready. Oh my God.
At this point, I mean, there's been a conversation going on in the inbox. As you guys have been having your conversation. Unfortunately, I can't scroll up to see everything that people wrote previously, but a while ago, a couple women did express, why men can't be vulnerable. But it looks like you guys have answered that question. And then Dr. Eboni Bell's husband, Pastor Ron, had commented, I'm trying to remember exactly what he wrote because I can't read it right now, but vulnerability is expressed differently for men and women. In terms for women, it might be communicating every thought and feeling, and then for men, it's just like to be able to be at peace and just rest. So that was his point.
I'm learning, y'all. I'm learning. 6.5 years in, I'm still trying. It's a journey. You have to train yourself to do that because, I'm gonna let you keep going, but for women, we want to know now. We want to, because we want to fix it. We want to be the mom. We're naturally nurturing. And so if my babe comes in a room, I automatically know something is going on. I automatically want to fix it. Just because that's who I am as a woman. But many times, he just wants to lay right here. Like, that's all he wants. He doesn't want to have this long, drawn-out conversation. He doesn't. But
That's the last thing you want.
the last thing, but I didn't know that. Nobody told me.
Because if you think about this, right? And I'm sorry.
No,
All right. Because if you really think about this, I know speaking for us, we wake up with a mission.
Okay.
We wake up to like, yo, we're gonna leave some kind of impact when we wake up.
Okay.
And when we wake up, we're gonna come home and just be like, yeah, babe, did you do it? Yeah, I did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but sometimes you just gotta.
You don't want to come home to another mission.
Yeah.
Superman.
You know what I mean?
Let me get a couple of other, and then I'm gonna let Rose jump in.
So I think a lot of the women are appreciative for the guys speaking up about their vulnerabilities and the journeys that they had to get through to figure out some things for themselves. One mother said, as a mother of a young black man, I'm learning that now, which,
That's great.
and then someone else said, this is passed down from generations, it then turns into insecurities. And then someone else put, essentially this all sucks, she would hate for a man to suppress his feelings solely based on being told to man up. Or whatever society decides to pin on males. And then a male says, but is the real problem the relationships, or is it you step into it not knowing who you are from the start?
Let's go there. Because that question is right here. Let's talk about everybody. Let's talk about wholeness. Let's talk about knowing who we are outside of these relationships. Y'all can just chime in. Rose, you want to?
I think it's important that you know who you are because you can get lost in what they want you to be. and then
Good.
become a false person in your own relationship, and then you wake up one day and you're like, who am I?
Yeah. And
You
you
know what I
resent
mean?
the person that.
Yeah, and then we
Yeah.
talk about being unequally yoked. I can't be your partner and I don't know who I am. Because the moment you make me mad or something doesn't go my way, I'm going to turn back and you're not going to know me, if that makes sense. So if I'm not presenting you the real person who I am, you're falling in love with a false person. And eventually, I'm going to show who I am, and I'm going to end up divorced and lonely. And you know what I mean? That's not cute. So, I mean, understanding who you are as a person, being comfortable and okay with who you are, that's like
That's
your
big.
flaws, everything, your insecurities as well, is super, super vital for a successful relationship and successful marriage for me.
So yeah, I always tell some of my friends who ask me for advice, and I use this myself. You can't love anybody else unless you love yourself.
That's the biggest thing.
Wholeheartedly. And it may take you a while sometimes, but it's something that you literally have to do. You have to be alone a while sometimes in order to be with somebody else. Because you can't love them if you don't love yourself.
And that goes back to surrender.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, I think if you get into a relationship and you don't know who you are, you skip a step.
Yeah.
You're not even qualified to be in a relationship. Because when you are your optimal self, you understand who you are. That's the only way you're going to help that person further reach a greater potential for what God's called them to do. And so you have to go back to the one who created you to find out who you are.
Exactly.
So that you don't do yourself, God, and that person a disservice.
And kids if they're involved.
And children.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
So this is just playing a little devil's advocate, right? So I mean, when we speak very candidly of understanding who we are, right? As we're still in the process of growing and evolving into that completely holy, right? To some degree, it would also be to ask that I would hope that the relationship would help us both
I was gonna say
evolve
Absolutely.
in growing away. So it's like a double-edged sword, right? Because I feel like it's only in relationship and in that reflection of the person that we're engaged with that we can really see our flaws.
Yeah.
But because when it comes to my subjective mind, understanding and processing my own thoughts, emotions, and feelings, I'm very biased and limited to what I can and cannot see.
Yeah.
Because I'm still seeing it through my filter.
Right.
Even through the relationship with divine, with God, with Christ, I'm still interpreting that through my filters.
Right.
But when I engage in relationship with someone,
Right.
they show me.
Yeah.
They show me the thing. Now whether I accept
Real
it,
talk.
now whether I accept it or not is
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah.
But they're gonna show me my shit. And they're gonna show me the good, and they're gonna show me the great. So there also has to be an element of openness into growing in an entirely different way when we're in a relationship. But I also feel like there has to be an initial foundation of understanding.
That's fundamental.
Of understanding of self, but there also has to be an ability to go beyond how we think we identify and define ourselves, because that relationship has to have that space in order for it to grow in a way where a woman or a man feels like they can actually contribute to the person's life and their evolution.
And that's what makes it exciting.
That's good.
I think it's important to know too, like we're I tell my friends this all the time. I think it's two ways to look at it. So I have friends and I know individuals and I've done it myself in the past, getting into a relationship to try to figure out who you are, the worst mistake.
Yeah. I was thinking that.
I'm saying this for me. And I know, that's the worst mistake ever. But I think it's also too. It's not necessarily to say, oh, I'm not going to get in a relationship until I know who I am, because I think that if you are like myself and many of us in here, unless you're a different type of person, you're always going to be growing. You're never going to know the totality of who you are, because you're always going to be moving and shifting and going.
And life's going to happen.
And life is going to happen. And so I think what it is like he said, I think there has, like he said, the foundation. I think you have to have an idea of who you are and what you want to be. At least come to the table, at least with the idea of who you are, who you want to be, so that way we can work on that and grow in those areas.
Can I ask him a question?
And then I'm gonna let Jake chime in.
So what happens in a relationship where two people meet and they understand who they are as an individual and who are each other, and then they say some time passes and they grow and they evolve into developing new habits, new
Right,
purpose,
yeah.
new walks of life. At what point are you willing to grow with a person, and at what point do you say, okay, we're no longer compatible because of the direction that we're both growing in?
Yeah.
That comes
That
with,
is good.
That's
That's
your
a good
consultation
question.
with God, because that's
Yeah.
and I told my friends this past weekend, we have to be very mindful that some people are seasonal.
Yes.
I came into
Say
your
it.
life.
That was last
How do you
week.
know that? Tell us how you know that. Very honest. That's a hard one.
I think it's a heart thing, and I think it's a heart thing, and I think it's a reality thing. So anything that you think or truthfully think, you feel it in your heart first before you make that concrete decision.
Okay.
And so I think it's something that you definitely it's a heart thing, and it's just a reality factor that you have to be truthful. A lot of times we don't want to be truthful with ourselves because this person is so good to me. I don't want to let them go. Or because this person is just a good look, being honest, I don't want to let them go.
These pictures look too good. We get too many likes on these
I
pictures.
got 500 likes. You want me to delete this?
Yeah.
This is true. This is reality. So I think it's definitely you have to just really consider the reality factor, that feeling that you get in your heart, and definitely that consultation with Christ, and like talking to him, having that communication with him, and saying, okay, so is this done? And if he says yes, it's done. You don't hold on because it's going to be first.
Right.
You have to let go when God says let go.
Yes,
So when do you know not to let go? Because I think sometimes we have a fear of being challenged as men, and then our pride and our ego intervenes. And when a woman is truly challenged in a way where we're being forced to grow, that's uncomfortable. That intimidation factor, that ego factor comes in, and then it becomes very confusing and unclear on whether or not is this person helping me grow.
I'm ready to jump in.
Is this person helping me
I
grow? Or what's up?
I'm telling you, I have the answer to this. I'm gonna help everybody out. Send your offerings later on tonight. Listen. Here's what you gotta do. Listen. Y'all ready? You have to picture yourself 10 years from now.
Yep.
Can you see with the rate of growth that you are going, with the rate of growth that person is growing, if you stay together, can you see that 10 years from now?
Which goes back to that
Literally, you
vision.
have to visualize it.
Yeah.
Can I have kids with this person?
Yep.
Can I travel the world with this person? Does this person want to travel the world?
Right.
Because I'm not going by myself.
Right.
Like, the vision that you have for your life individually is extremely important. Because if you do not already have that, or an inkling of that, before you are married, when you get married, it's all gonna go, it's gonna become confusion. Because you were never clear in the beginning on where you wanted to end up. Right? And I'm only saying that on the other side of singlehood. Right? Because my husband and I both had very strong visions before we met. I didn't even know anything about him. All I knew was that in this season of my singleness, I need to be pursuing my purpose like never before.
Marry yourself.
I don't have time to waste.
Yeah.
I'm getting these degrees.
Yeah.
I'm getting my money up.
Yeah.
I'm getting my wisdom up. I'm working on a relationship with God. I'm figuring out who I am as a person.
Right.
Where do I want to be? And that is the reason why life planning and goal setting and vision boards and all that stuff is so important. Because if you do not know where you want to be, then when you meet somebody, you won't be able to see it. You can visualize that person 10 years from now, in the future.
Can we even talk about, I think that for me, because I have to be, like I shared the struggles that I had.
Yeah.
So with myself, I have to be very careful about just places that I go, people that I'm around, X, Y, and Z. So now at this point in my life, 24, I'm at the fundamental principle part right now. And so I'm in the Bible searching and reading and studying what does it even mean to be a man. You get what I'm saying?
Wow.
So I think we have to first deal with that part. What is the Bible and what does God call a man to be? What is the Bible, what does God call a woman to be? And so once we get those principles and those fundamental factors down pat, then I can search in what does God call our relationship to be?
Yeah.
What does he call marriage to be? And even in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, Paul calls singleness a gift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so sometimes we have to figure out when is this my
Right,
gift time?
right.
You know what I mean? Because we're trying to move outside of that. This is my, like, I could prosper in my singleness and be truthfully happy in my singleness when it's my gift time. Then I have to figure out when is it time for me to migrate into a relationship. Sometimes we move outside of that gift, and that's when it messes up. So that's where I'm at with it right now. Fundamentals and principles.
It's really interesting in a relationship.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everyone's not full to marriage. Everyone doesn't have to get married.
Yeah.
So if you're not, if that's not God's plan for your life, and you sitting over there because you after your flesh, like, oh my gosh, I gotta get married. Maybe you're not really called to be married.
Yeah.
Maybe you can live this single life and be okay.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that goes back to your non-negotiables list. Like I have one.
Yeah.
I have a non-negotiables list.
I'm
Like,
just not
it's
doing
not
it.
going to work. And I think that kind of goes back to your question. Like, when do you know, like, you can't grow with this person? When you go against this non-negotiable list is when I know it's time to exit.
Yeah.
Because there's just certain things and values that I have and I hold it dear that you can't mess with.
You can't compromise.
And if I know that for myself, it would do us an injustice by doing that.
Right, exactly. That's why I believe that it's big to not jump into anything so quickly. Like, if it takes you a year to get to know a person, then get to know that person for that year. And if it doesn't manifest and it doesn't move anywhere, then take that for what it is and move on from it. But I don't believe in, oh, I have this person, this amazing person, let's jump into a relationship. No, because I don't give a title just to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't even think it takes all that, like the guesswork of when you're in a relationship and how do you know. For me, it's a no until God says yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like God didn't. I don't think. Well, I think God will let us know before we're a year into that relationship or whatever the case. Like for me, like I pray about everything now, whether it be whether I'm going to get my number out, whether I'm going to go on a date with this person, and if God says no, or if I don't hear a yes, and I'm not doing it. Like certain situations we had no business being in, it wasn't supposed to be a fast hello, and then we're a year later, like God, is he we had no business being there.
Just to add on, somebody did comment that she knows when to let go when she feels a constant state of confusion. God isn't the author of confusion.
That goes back to last week when you were talking about peace.
Yeah.
And that peace in relationships.
Yeah, and that I was gonna say that's how I knew my husband was my husband. When my husband started pursuing me, first of all, the first time he saw me was a picture of me on Facebook. At this point in my singlehood, it had been 5 years, and I wasn't in any relationships. When I went on dates, I told dudes, "Don't kiss me, don't touch me, no," because I knew myself. Like you have to know your own boundaries when you're dating, right? So like I knew myself. You know, I can't go into your apartment and I ain't sleeping on your couch. No, it wasn't happening. So I was at a point where I was literally just getting to know me. Long story short, my husband, of course, was in ministry, going into ministry. He was like, ready for a wife. And it just so happens that a mutual friend of ours showed him my picture on Facebook. He was like, yeah, her. I want to meet her. So long story short, I ended up quitting my job at UMES because I believed it was just time for me to move on. At that point in time, my husband, who's my husband now, inboxed me. And I don't remember what he said. And then all of a sudden he started playing me like these jazz songs through the inbox on Facebook. No joke. I had never seen him, never met him, had never had a conversation. I'm on my way out the country because I wanted to go out and travel. So I went out. Oh no, we had one conversation, and I was like, I'm about to leave the country, and let's talk when I get back, kind of thing. Like, because I wasn't. Let me just say, my husband wasn't the type that I was used to. So I didn't even look at him like that. I didn't know. I had no clue, to be honest with you. But you really don't get to that place until you have done that background work of knowing who you are and just being okay with being single. Because I struggled in my singlehood, y'all. I was the girl that wanted to be married at 22. Like that was me. I grew up without a father, whole backstory. I won't go into that in this episode. But I had daddy issues and I wanted love and I needed to be attached to a male. Like that was just who I was. So it was a huge struggle for me to stop and really get to know who I was through God's eyes. Like that whole relationship with God and figuring out who I am and God, how do you see me? Show me who I am and all that stuff. That's where I was. And so people say it all the time, but when you stop wanting it, it comes to you. I mean, it really, that is exactly what happened to me. As soon as I stopped looking for it and wanting it, and every guy that would ask me out, I'd be like, this might be him. I mean, really, that's just, it was like a desperation that I can't really explain. It was natural to me, though, right? So Not to take up too much time, long story short, I went and traveled overseas. He was still sending me these like Nina Simone and like John Coltrane songs. I'm like, who was this guy playing me these songs? Like he would never really say much. He would just every now and then just send me a song. Of course, I'm praying like, God, who's this dude? Let me say this: you need someone in your life who you can run people by. Somebody older than you, who has wisdom, who can ask you tough questions. Because that was my spiritual dad. That's who he was in my life. I told my spiritual dad the guy's name. He was like, I like that name. From that moment on, when he said that, because I trust him, when he said I like that name, it's like I kind of like let a wall down.
Yeah.
Because I needed that type of validation from a father figure. See, it's all connected. When he said that, I started taking more phone calls and that kind of thing. Like, I don't know who this guy is. He's like really pursuing me, which we can talk about next with this pursuit. It's like, long story short, I come from overseas 6 months later, right? My husband was on a fast in December. He fasted the whole month. He said that during that time, he lost like 60 pounds. He lost like 60 pounds. He got like his finances together. He was just getting himself ready. I had no idea about any of this. I'm overseas living it up. Like, I don't want to go back.
Right.
I get back, we have a conversation on the phone. The first time we had the conversation, I just start like breaking out into prayer. Like, I don't even know what happened to me. But there was something about this man, this voice on the phone that just like resonated with me. And it's an amazing story, but long story short, 7 months later, we were married.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 months later. 7 months later, we were married. He said that after he came off of that fast, God literally spoke my name, Eboni, she is your wife. This whole time, I had no clue what is going on.
Right.
But this is God's intervention. This is like God's divine setup.
Yeah.
Right? Because he said and this is in my book, he said the whole time I was away, God was just dealing with him. He was losing the weight. He was fixing his eating habits. He was doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the question really becomes, how do men know? How do you know that you're ready to even consider it's time for a wife? I mean, seriously.
I knew I'd be there.
I love it. But no, that's how it happened for us. And peace was it. Peace was
For the
the
guys that are happily single and not there yet, do you still date? If so, what's the purpose of dating?
Yes, good question.
That is a
I
good
personally I really don't date. It's just me, myself, and I'm not going out anywhere with anybody because, like I said, you have to know yourself, and I know me. So it's just like how you said, you have to know yourself. I know me, and a date is not going to be good enough if I give that part of my flesh. Just like you give some.
Not even a date like coffee.
You give a dog a crumb and he went the whole plate. You know what I mean? That's
a mature response.
And my essence and my flesh, that's me. I can't just go on the date. I have to get something else from this date.
Yeah.
And so I deal with myself in that way.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I deal with myself in that way. So because I know that about myself, I don't even bother it. I just don't bother it. And so I get into a place where I'm strong enough to say, hey, okay, I can go on a date with her and then we can have a conversation another time.
Yeah.
No, it's like you go on a date and then I have to send a text message or something like.
Right.
I don't know, like it was just that I was that type of person, and I know that about myself, and so I feel like I'm fully grown from that area. Then I'll entertain that.
Okay. Jay, you haven't spoken much, man. Talk to us about this dating thing, man. Is it worth dating if you're not ready? Like, talk about that.
I don't think that it is just based off of everything you guys said. Like knowing yourself is very, very important. And I'm just getting to do that now. I was in a relationship for like 5 years. And I didn't know myself, and it showed towards the end that she was getting to know herself. I didn't know myself, so it was just like she's ready to go, and I'm like, nah, I'm good right now.
Okay. So what should a woman do at that point if she can see that you are in two different places? What do you advise? Would you express that to her, or would she have to like figure that out? That's the worst.
That's the worst. Such a good question.
Can I just say that's the worst?
It's the worst.
I don't think they.
It's the worst.
No, y'all gotta let us in on that. No, that's not right. Because women are out here struggling. Women are out here struggling trying to figure out what y'all are thinking. And why is it that you can't just ever in life.
Well,
Why can't you say that?
I know y'all heard the analogy before. You know, you're never supposed to let your right hand know what your left hand. Nah, but I can elaborate on that though.
Please elaborate.
I can be really honest about that. And what I mean by that is, like we say, everybody in here has a goal to achieve something.
Exactly.
And as you're trying to achieve that goal, yes, as a man, you think about like, yeah, you do want a wife, you do want a partner. But at the same time, among your journey that you're going through, you're going to come across different people that just don't fit what you're trying to move forward.
And would
to.
you communicate that?
As long as you're
No.
You cannot hold that sign up again. You have to answer the question.
We do not want to depend on
The question is, why can't men? Why do you not communicate that?
Yeah.
Why do you make women stay in relationships for?
Well, for her, Richard,
It's not fair.
We don't have to use magic. Richard has no problem putting that on the table.
So you're saying that you would be honest, regardless of whether you're enjoying whatever benefits this relationship.
That's my problem. That's why. Because I'm too honest.
So can
Because y'all, when I say y'all, when y'all put out there that y'all can handle honesty and y'all want somebody to be straightforward, when you get it, just like with men too, you can't take it.
No.
Wait, what?
I think it's all
When you
about.
want, okay, example.
I think that sometimes when guys say that we don't take honesty, I don't think that y'all really give it. See, the thing about it is sometimes you have to really be black and white with us. You can't be
Actions and words.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
yes,
So when we say
yes.
black and white, we're meaning action and words. We're not saying give us pink and then give us black and white. We're talking about everything needs to be black and white to us, because if you're giving us black and white and then pink, now you're sending mixed signals. Now we're already attached. We're already attached. Now we're trying to figure out, well, which one really is it? Is it really the black and white or is it the pink? So the thing about it is y'all don't give it just black and white, just straight black and white, or actions on
Why pink?
When a
Say it,
guy
I know what you're about to say.
can't let someone go, it's because they do sometimes truly love that person.
Yeah.
They truly care for that person. They just may not be in their season of when they're ready to make that next step. And if they were to express that to us, sometimes, I know I've been guilty, I don't understand it, so I'm pressuring, like, no, I want it now. But they're like, nah, chill, wait for a second. Like, I'm just not there. And then I become a nagger.
So what do you do in that situation? What do you do in that situation where you think you might get there one day, but she's already there? What is the best thing to do in that situation?
Not be selfish.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
And I think a lot of this comes down to selfishness.
Yeah.
A lot of this comes down to us wanting the things that come along with a relationship and not really ready to be in a relationship, but still want to enjoy those things when they come along, with it. And I think for me, in one of my past relationships, I reached a point of loving someone more than myself, which was in a sense self-sacrificing, because I had to reach a point where I had to tell myself and my partner that I love you enough for you not to be with me. Because I wasn't in a position to give her what she truly deserved.
And I respect that.
And I'm going to tell you, she didn't, because she took it personal. Wow. And it wasn't anything towards her. In fact, I was putting her on a pedestal. I was acknowledging her self-worth. And at the same time, I was honestly admitting that I wasn't in a position to grow in a way to be a man that can complement her as a woman. And it was the hardest thing for me to do, because I was so used to, in prior relationships, getting what I want as I wanted, and really not giving in a way where it was contributing to the relationship,
Yeah.
and I just ride that out, you know,
Yeah.
for as long as I can ride that out. But for this woman, she made me see her as her true self, and in that reflection, I saw myself, and I knew what she deserved.
Yeah.
And you couldn't give it to her.
And I couldn't, and I knew I wasn't in a
That's
place.
good.
I knew I wasn't in a place to give it to her. So I had to push her away from me from a place of love, so she can move into a place where she can meet someone who could step in and give her what she deserved.
And
And
that's
it
powerful.
took a process.
So
Yeah.
a random question: was the intentions of the relationship set at the beginning?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So
Because if they were, and you kind of continued on knowing that you may not have been there, then I could see why she took it personally.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
But if
black and
they,
white
yeah, right.
I think a lot of times too, like we get into I'll be the first to say it, nobody else say it. We get into relationships as boys.
Yeah.
And so there's a maturity factor that comes
Yeah.
into me, you know,
Very
going
true.
into my manhood
Yeah.
and then sometimes me going into my manhood, it's too late. And so we've already destroyed this purpose that we had together here.
Right.
And so we have to separate because this is not going to go any further as far as progression is concerned. And so I think that that's a case for a lot of us, is that we get into relationships as boys and boys when they're kicking it too. And my pastor says it all the time: boys want toys, men want tools.
That's good. That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's so
But
good.
I don't want you to think that that's one-sided, though.
You know, I don't think it's one-sided at all.
girls.
Oh, so nowadays,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
nowadays everyone's using and abusing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do we have any questions or comments that are? I know. I'm sorry, y'all. We have to do part 2 one day.
Again, there's men and women going back and forth in the group chat.
Oh Lord, are they arguing?
Wait to
Are they arguing?
Discussing opinions.
All right.
So, way back when a gentleman answered, you know, you can't handle the truth. Most men are actually black and white. Women look for the gray or pink. Because when you hear the truth, you can't accept the explanation. Women take the truth personal. And then we have, basically, it is selfish. She said she was in that place before and had to let the person go. He needed to grow and she needed to heal and get ready for her purpose. And, you know, so in agreement with Jason. That's pretty much it, because it's going back and forth in the comments.
Let me say this, or it may just be more of a question, but why, in a sense, is a woman taking it personal when we all have emotions? So I don't know necessarily to reference it as taking it personal. Like, if she cared about you, why is it a bad thing when you had to let her go and she wasn't as easy with it? Like, it doesn't mean that she's necessarily taking it personal, like, oh, it's the end of the world and things like that. But if she has developed some type of emotion for you,
There is going to be a
it's
response.
never right. It's
Yeah,
not going to.
right.
She's not going to walk away, high five. Okay, check
Oh, yeah,
check
yeah,
later.
yeah.
I don't think y'all expect that.
No. And when I say
But
take
when
it
you
personal,
say
I don't
You
mean
said
that.
like,
I don't mean that like she took it personal in a way where it was like it was a negative thing or it was a bad thing.
okay.
I think she was unable to see that me making that choice wasn't because she wasn't a good woman.
Right.
Oh, okay. The
You know?
rejection part.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was making the choice from an entirely different place. But then we go into a little bit deeper and come to find out that her reaction to what I was saying was actually her patterns of how she reacted in the past.
Oh,
And
okay.
she still needed to find herself, and she still needed to grow.
And you probably
And,
did
and
that
she
from-
she was used to being with a person that she knew wasn't standing for her in the most empowering way,
Okay.
and being the person that felt the need to kind of pull the person up because she had that fear of failure in the relationship. So for me, it was like we both met our matches.
Yeah.
Which I had to be able to see from a more objective standpoint,
Right.
and understand that, wow, like the mechanics of these relationships are demonstrating all the signs that are pointing in this direction. And that allowed me to subtract the personal vindictive kind of like attitude and nature
Okay,
towards
yeah.
what was happening, and to see it as it was, like, wow, like this is actually a great thing to be acknowledging now that we no longer have to waste our time
Right.
or each other's time, because it's not that I'm not a good person, you're not a good person.
Right.
It's just that we're not at the right place in the right
For
time
each
to
other.
compliment each other.
Yeah.
For each
And
other.
that brings freedom, which
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
eliminates resentment
Yes.
down the line. But again, it takes that ability to be able to take yourself out of it, look at the situation as it
Did
is.
she get to a point where she was able to take herself out of it? And the only reason I'm asking, okay, so I mean, we're all transparent, so I've been there with a person, right? Where, then we done went through the whole, practically being in a relationship, and then all of a sudden, you have time that you need to, think about it, and you realize that, and it's okay, and I
Think about it.
right, you know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, whatever, but I had prayed on it before then because I started feeling a disconnect anyway. So I was already at that point. So when we both sat down and we had the conversation, I was like, I was okay with it. But I was just wondering if she ever get to a point where she became okay with the fact that you said it just wasn't working out and that she still was a good person.
Well,
Could she be your friend today?
Yes. Today, yes.
Today, okay.
Today,
But it
yes.
was a process.
Oh no, it was and because love is real.
Yeah.
And when you invest your feelings and your emotions to a certain standard at a certain quality, it goes back to exactly what you're saying. There's going to be a bit of that heartache. There's going to be a bit of that identifying the issues as issues of your own and of yourself.
Right.
But that's when practices like prayer, for me,
I was just
meditation,
meditation
and things like that really come into play because it helps me see it through a different lens,
It's real clear,
from a
right,
different
right.
perspective, and that helps me kind of like not take things as personal as they are.
Right.
Not to say that I'm unattached and I'm just
Right,
desensitized,
right,
yeah.
but it helps me bring in that element.
Yeah, and I know everybody probably wants to just jump in there, but I really think this is a good time to talk about why God is so important. If you do not have discernment, I mean, you will run into so many different situations that could have been prevented simply because you took the time to pray, you took the time to be still,
And
you
then
took the time to be silent.
you do get it.
And
that's the
We don't like the answer.
Right. Especially if it's
We
not
proceed,
relationship.
especially females, because I can tell you the relationship that I was in before that 5-year period before I met my husband. I just knew this man was my husband. I did everything in my power to make him into my. And he was a great man. Like, we were best friends. He was a great guy. He was everything I wanted or thought I needed.
Yeah.
But he was not the person to get me to my destiny.
Yeah.
He just wasn't. He was a
Yeah.
great. This guy was a great. He was a great guy. We were very compatible. Looked good together. The whole 9. It wasn't God though.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
Yeah.
So good.
And it took me years to figure that out. Because, no, not to figure it out. It took me years to be obedient.
Yes.
Because then God had to rip me from the situation, which
Yeah.
caused me
And that-
way
yes.
more pain.
Yeah.
And it was a rip. It wasn't a separation at that point.
Yeah.
My heart was literally torn into pieces.
Yeah.
Like, God doesn't want to deprive us of these good things. You know what
He
I mean?
does it 'cause he loves
gave
us.
us these desires. He wants to give it to us, but
Right.
in the right time. And like you
Yeah.
said, being obedient, it just ends in more pain. Like, it's literally to protect us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so it's just like when we don't do, I have I guess my personal experience with that
Yeah.
of holding on longer than I should have.
Yeah.
And it was so much worse in the end.
Yeah.
I like
Because you keep hoping
Yeah.
that it's gonna be what you think it can be.
Yeah.
And I talk about that in my book about not, like you said, not marrying potential, because it's not fair to the other person.
Yeah.
You can't marry what you think it's supposed to be or what you think it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
No, that person is who that person is in that moment.
Yeah.
And if you can't deal with that for the rest of your life, then you need to separate.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Before this, you were talking a bit about pursuit, right?
Yes.
And it seems like through your story that your husband pursues
Absolutely.
you in a very persistent manner, right? And I'm sure he had thoughts during that process of like, am I doing the most right now?
Well, he did the most.
You know,
Like,
yeah.
he bought me diamonds on the first date.
So
He did the most.
So my thing is this. My thing is this. you know whether or not to continue to let him pursue you, or to kind of come off saying, like, how did you know when that was? Because I feel like now it becomes very, like, difficult, at least for me as a man, to know whether or not when it's my place to be persistent and pursue, or whether it's my place to kind of fall back and then let the situation show me if the person is in fact mutually interested.
Oh my God, that's a deep question. My husband made a comment today. I was asking questions on Facebook all day. My husband made a comment that when a man comes to the end of himself, and he can no longer move forward by himself, that is when he is ready for a wife.
And I think there's no question.
Because of Adam and Eve. I mean, that was
And I think you have to go back to that, like the very beginning. And I know Pastor Ryan, we talked about it one time, about Adam and Eve, and just the importance of men. I feel like men struggle with their identity and who they are and who they are in God. And like before there was ever an Eve, Adam was in the garden by himself. God gave him purpose. God gave him authority. He was working. Then God presented him Eve. And Pastor Ryan even broke it down like the word husband is like an agricultural term, like describing the act of husbandry and cultivating and growing.
Right.
And so it's just like, if you think about what a husband is, you're a cultivator, you grow, whatever. So it's like if you connect with a woman before you become a husband, just like you said, you become a husband before you become a husband. You become a wife before I actually become a wife. If you connect with somebody before you become a husband, you don't have the ability to cultivate it, so you just end up taking to satisfy your needs.
Preach.
That's good. That's so good.
And I want to say one thing to add to that. Then the Bible goes on to say, be fruitful and multiply.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't say take pictures and put them on Facebook.
Right.
No. Marriage is a ministry. Marriage has purpose. Marriage is not just I have somebody to spend Christmas with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And have babies with. So being fruitful and multiplying, we are fruitful and we multiply in several different ways. That's through producing children, number one. That's through our purpose. My husband compliments my purpose and I compliment his purpose. I could never have lived a fulfilling life with a person who could not push me forward in my purpose. Because that is the number one thing outside of God. It's my purpose. And my motherhood is wrapped in that. My wifehood is wrapped in that. This is all wrapped in that. See, if I hadn't married the right person, I wouldn't. This conversation would not be taking place.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? All of these people, this is multiplication. All those people watching, this is being fruitful. This is multiplying. I'm multiplying in my career. I'm being fruitful in my career. My spiritual life has fruit, right? You know the tree by the fruit that it bears. So if you're approached by a woman or you're in a relationship with a woman and she doesn't have the fruit that you're looking for, that's an indication right there. You know what I mean? She's not producing the things that you can see in your future. She should already be doing that. So you become a wife before you become a wife. My husband met me as a wife. The way that I knew for real, that it was okay to continue to pursue or let him pursue me was because I knew where I was. It had nothing to do with him. I knew the nights and the tears that I had cried. I knew the cleansing that I had asked God to do me. Forgive me of all the sexual sins from my past. Forgive me, God, for all the relationships I stayed in that I wasn't supposed to be in. Forgive me for the years that I wasted not doing your will. Right? And that because I knew that behind closed doors, I had worked on that stuff. It wasn't about show. It wasn't about I stand up in church and wave my hands. It was the work that I did behind the scenes. And if you do not do that work, you rob yourself, you rob your future spouse, and you rob the marriage and the multiplication that comes from your marriage because you didn't do the work in the background. And I would tell you, if you're not doing the work in the background, you're not ready. You're just not.
And that process is not fun. It's
No.
not fun. And I think that's a lot of women, especially. I think they are just not willing to go through the process.
I don't even know if they're not willing. I think some women are scared to go to it.
Yeah, because it's lonely.
It hurts. It's that darkness. Like I'm telling you, when I went through it, it was the worst ever. It was more fear, but I had to go through it. I knew I had to physically go through that process of sitting in darkness, of attempted suicides mentally, like not feeling like I deserved the walk earth anymore. I had to go through that process to first find myself, and then once I started to learn and love myself again and find myself, then I started to find books that I started to read. And so until I read her book, she got me hooked on the weight. Then I, go online, I look at stuff, I start reading the Bible, you have to start sowing into yourself, because if you don't sow into yourself enough, you're not growing, you're not preparing yourself, you're not preparing yourself for anything.
You will not be
really, really
For
big.
me, there was a point in my life where I stopped waiting and I started working. So I don't sit around. I have not been bored since I was like 13. So I think cultivating a culture of servanthood in your life, because marriage is ministry, and a lot of times we think about. First of all, my spiritual life, my relationship with God, it starts with my worship of God. It's not even about me. So marriage was not a promise he made to me. If he does that, my job is to make sure that I'm spending enough time in terms of intimacy with him where I am completely whole, and anything on top of that is really icing on the cake. But once I actually started developing a life of servanthood, I became so busy where now men are saying, I don't even know if I can catch up with you. And if he's saying that, I know you're not the one for me. Because if you can't understand my calling, you can't understand what I'm doing, then, you know what I mean? But I think that a lot of times we think about marriage and that relationship as just progress. But what about the pain? And so if you have learned to serve, because a lot of people, they have so many voids. People have so many voids, and really the relationship is to fill the void. Not supposed to happen, because a human being doesn't understand every void.
And
we run to a human to do what only he can do. Exactly. And so when we understand servanthood, we know how to minister to that person, then we'll know how to do it in marriage when things aren't pretty, when they're sick. And I'm so glad I got to see that. I study relationships. I'm actually a product of divorce, and I'm grateful that my parents actually got divorced, even though a lot of that residue, came on me, and I had to grow from that and learn from their mistakes. And they're great friends now, and I understand what happened to them. But my home church pastor married 54 years and very transparent about his relationship. But I'm so glad I got to see couples who the husband had a stroke and the wife had to take care of him. It's not the pretty stuff. It's not the pretty stuff. We really have to understand that's what we need to be preparing for. Every aspect of those vows, in which people are not really built. When we talk about relationship goals and we look at people on the red carpet or whatever, we have this misconception of what true commitment really looks like.
Can I ask a question? Absolutely. Because you brought up something that just like stems some, and from everything that I'm hearing about all of you are successful in your own right. You all have beautiful career paths and living a life of purpose. So how do you find the balance and prioritize the relationship while being so committed, so passionate, so dedicated to your calling, to your purpose? Because as a man, I think this is something that we all kind of struggle to find.
Talk about that.
Is the work relationship balance, and with women really growing in these industries and careers,
you're right.
it also seems to be an issue as well, where perhaps a woman can be too independent for a relationship, and she is not in a place where she's creating space to kind of introduce an additional priority that complements her and her purpose and her work. So what does balance look like for you? When do you know to balance and to let career go and to put the relationship first?
I don't think I want to touch. I guess.
Oh no!
I got my phone.
We're way over time. I know. So we'll figure it out. But go ahead.
I have a short attention span. Now I forgot what I wanted to do.
Hold on. Balance. Professional life, making time for relationships.
For the male.
Well,
Go ahead. You can go on.
for me, it's about what's the priority in my life. At that
Okay,
point, I feel like everyone has a season of priorities. So at one point in time, it was my career. And now I'm 33. So at one point in time, it was my career. I wanted to be established, get my degrees, be where I want to be. Although I'm not there yet, the final goal, I strongly believe that I am ready for a relationship and I understand what it means to balance. Because I'm happy in my career. I found happiness there. And for me, my circle of wants and needs is, of course, my career, but also a family and leaving a legacy on this earth. So my balance, whenever I'm blessed with my husband, that will become my first priority. Exactly. That will become my ministry because I've learned to work and develop in this area of my life, so I'm content. And now it's time to cultivate this area of my life.
Yeah.
So whenever that guy comes, hang out with
I don't have to worry about it.
My personal prayer is that our purposes would be so parallel. I was thinking almost do life together. I like that. That's what I pray for, you know, and that kind of balance comes in effortlessly.
But that's what a male wants too. A male wants to be able to be with a female where everything intertwines.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so as far as like with the coaching and understanding that as a coach's wife, I'm not always going to be there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you're going to find a way to travel. You're going to find a way to bring the kids. But at the same time, I'm prioritizing that as soon as this season is over with, look, I want my family. I want my wife. You see what I'm saying? So, and that should respectfully be vice versa. If y'all climbing the corporate ladder and y'all doing everything that y'all doing, you're going to travel, everything, but, you know, let's do it. Like, what was that one movie? What was it? Internship? Where the lady was so successful that, you know, the husband wasn't
cheating on her and stuff.
But the husband,
because he was lacking.
He was a homebody. Like he took care of the daughter.
I remember.
You know what I'm saying? But like what I'm saying is just finding a way to intertwine.
And then understanding too that in marriage, it's about levels of sacrifice and denying yourself.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's just not, it's on so many levels, it's just not all about you.
Yeah. And that's what work that happens before marriage.
Exactly.
And when you're talking about you're serving God, you are sacrificing everything. In my singlehood, I sacrifice all the time.
Yes.
Like, and
that's awesome.
It's a practice that you get in that preparation for marriage.
Can I speak on the preparation for marriage from a man's standpoint real quick? I think that's how you all spoke about how that's hard for women. I think it's really, I don't want to be sexist, but I think it's hardest for men, and I'll say it from this point, because men, masculine, manhood, all of that together, and you're telling me that I have to submit. Men don't submit, so we think. You know what I'm saying? And so that preparation period is so hard for us, and it takes us so long to get there, because I have to, as a man, be underneath of somebody. And so being underneath of somebody, who I'm talking about is Christ.
Meaning
God. So what I'm speaking about is Christ. And so if I have to take everything off of myself to submit to you and do what you want me to do. And so it's kind of like playing big man, little man. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of playing big man, little man game. So it takes us so long, and sometimes we're all for it, and then we battle with ourselves in our mind, and we backtrack. And we think we're prepared for it, we think we're ready to submit all to God, but then when we look at the actual picture of what that looks like, submitting all to God, we backtrack on it again.
So are you saying that because many men aren't ready to submit to God, that sometimes holds up the process of being ready to be, that's deep.
And so it even goes back into the population of men in the church. We're not there. We're not there because why? Because we are so afraid of submitting fully to God, because in a sense, and I'm speaking from a general man's mindset, I look weak now. I don't want to cry in church. I don't want to be in the church because then what are my friends going to say? Why can't I just be at home watching the football game? You know what I mean? These are thoughts that are going through the general man's mind, and this is why I won't submit to God fully. And that's why most men aren't till 40 and 50 till they submit to Christ, because now I'm done all that I did, and God gave me enough grace to live until 40 and 50. And so now I'm going to go ahead and submit to Him, because I can't, I'm not going to
powerful. But do you all see the gap though?
Yeah.
Do you see that if that is the mindset of many men, and here we are every single week, we're in church. Every Wednesday we're at Bible study. We're serving in all the ministries. We running the church. No. We running this thing.
Because
they got a whole bunch of
because a lot of women, and I grew up real old school apostolic Pentecostal. That's the church I grew up in. And so I've seen, and this has nothing to do with singing. This is probably a whole different topic. But I've seen women serve day in, day out, year after year after year, but were not applying the principles and was just as nasty as they wanted to be.
That's definitely, that's another conversation. But my point is, can we see the gap now? I mean, that was enlightening for me.
Yes,
I never heard anybody say what you just said, ever in life. Ever. I never heard that.
Piece. Like we think that like as a man, we have a problem with submission. We just that's just an issue that we have with our personal self.
Right
And so we're able to, and I think that helped me out honestly when the Bible speaks about when I'm weak, He makes me strong. And so when I realized that, okay, cool, I think that I look weak in this area, but in actuality, me being broken in Christ actually is making me stronger.
His strength is made perfect in your weakness.
So this really reinforces what we touched on earlier. It seems like it's coming full circle, right? Because then there's also understanding in the value and the role of a woman and the strength and the support that's being required, you know, by the woman in order to stand for a man with his ignorance, you know, with his inability to be vulnerable and at times be prideful and selfish and not being able to submit. So it's kind of like, and this was something that I humbly just accepted at some point, and I knew that I wasn't ready to be in a relationship as long as I felt the need to take. And I understood that until I reached a place where the relationship could start from me being unselfishly giving, then I wasn't in a place to truly, to truly just grow and kind of create something, you know, bigger than myself. But at the same time, I remember praying for a woman that could be strong enough and understanding to see me as I am, even in times where I was still confused about what that looks like. Because I wanted someone, especially a woman, to be able to help me work through the things that I had to be able to work through myself. So, at some essence, I was like being submissive to her and allowing her in my process, and through my understanding of self through God, I reached that place.
I do want to comment though that there are some things that we can't help you with. There's certain things that we're not supposed to, and I think sometimes men put that burden on us, and it's not we're not capable. Those are things that only God can do. He created you. He's the only person that can show you who you are. Like you have these voids. We can't fill these voids from you know what's within us.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
I mean, I think the toughest thing, I haven't said anything in a while. But I think the toughest thing is women grasping the concept that they have to be stronger than us.
Do we need to be?
Sometimes.
It depends. I think every
marriage. I think.
Yeah, I think
it depends on what kind of man you're dealing with, what his career path is, what he gets.
James, hold on. James said something.
Come on, help the people out. Help us out.
I think from what he's saying is like, because I see, like we talked about earlier, when we said, like, when do we know, you know, it's time to go, and I was talking about something that I had to think about that again. Like, in a relationship, if the man or the woman is going down this totally different lane, and your main source of your decision making is Christ, what if he's telling you to stay there? Like, this is where you need to be at this time to push this person to your next level. And this is gonna be your husband. This is gonna be your wife. This is your purpose at this. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of relationships that we perceive as jacked up, but if we stay through the persecution and stay for what God is, I guess I'd say, preparing us for, then we will be able to see the beautiful end. But I think sometimes we abort too soon.
Yes.
We abort the mission.
We abort too soon because it's too hard.
Get out of the fire. Come on,
it's too hard for us personally, so we abort too soon, and then in actuality, that could have been exactly, or that is exactly what God is calling for us. But because it's something that we can't handle personally, we just give up.
And that same thing can happen in marriage, and people are doing it all the time, and that is why the divorce rate is the way it is.
What did the Bible say? The Bible say.
Yes. The other side of that is, I do agree that sometimes we give up too soon. with what you said, number one, it's absolutely important that God is telling you to stay there.
Absolutely.
But God will never tell you to stay somewhere that's compromising your purpose.
Right.
You don't. I think sometimes, especially women, we do this because we're nurturers. Whatever. We put so much energy into developing our man and helping him achieve his goals and reach his purpose that we neglect ours. And we don't get a joint purpose until we're married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I have mine, he has yours. Yes, we can help each other, but yours should not.
Yeah, and I see purpose as
And
like
I'm
this.
about to say, touch on it.
Yeah, I see purpose as this like it's like I see purpose as like it's multifaceted. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And so if you're in a
Exactly.
situation, if Christ is telling you to stay in this situation, it's for a reason.
Right.
Because some of your purpose may be grown and developed through this situation.
Right.
So I think it's definitely
You smart. How old are you?
It's 24.
You had to get the right wife.
Absolutely. And I tell you, like I'll say this, like I feel like, and I truthfully believe that I went through what I went through at an early age for conversations like this, for me to be able to have conversations, mature conversations like this. And whatever I speak about comes from experience, and I share these two scriptures every time we're going to speak about any situation. Psalms 119, verse 67. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I know your word. Same chapter, Psalms 119, 71. It is good for me that I was afflicted, so now I keep the decrees. And so these things, like, with the immature mind, I was thinking, like, God lied to me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to suffer in this way? But in all actuality, when like I said, when you don't abort, when you stay with the mission and get a chance to see the beautiful end, you see that these situations occur in my life for very specific reasons. Yeah. And he tells us in his word, you suffer with me, you reign with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so you can't get this whim or this beautiful ending picture until you go through this persecution, until you go through this suffering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I would say that the first couple of years of my marriage were, they were really tough.
Yeah.
Just to testify to what you're saying. But I believe that that had to happen for us my husband and I, to be able to be propelled into our destiny together so soon.
Yes.
Right? Because what couple gets married 1 year starts a church the next year,
Right.
while pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's just, he wrote a book first, I wrote the book second. Like I think we were just as an example, we're so beyond our years, right? That our tough stuff had to happen early. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think it is situational, and it's dependent on what your particular destiny is.
Yes.
Some people might not hit it till year number 6 or number 7.
Right.
But we had a lot of things thrown at us in the beginning. Again, because I had to be sitting here to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So it's all. We can never get in the business of comparing our lives, our situations, our relationships, our marriages, our destinies to other people. That is the biggest joy killer.
And I think he hit it when he said like purpose is multifaceted.
Yeah.
I think that's so important to understand, because I think sometimes we get so attached to how our purpose is being identified through a career or through a vehicle that we can't see the core of what that person means or what that purpose is and how it's actually contributing to our lives and the lives of others. And sometimes our purpose takes different shapes, forms in relationships, through different careers, through different paths. And sometimes we're so attached to the purpose looking like a career or looking like a job or looking like something that I hold so dear to me that we miss like the gems and the diamonds that are in the rough in the relationships, when in fact that relationship at that time was our purpose. So in understanding our purpose, that's attached to like our subjective attachment and experience to it, our personality that's attached to it, there also has to be a deeper level of understanding what that purpose essentially truly is. Like what's the core of what our purpose is, not how it's manifesting in the relative, but in the most deepest essence of what it is. What does that look like? What are the core principles surrounding that? And that helps kind of guide and shape your path in life, because then you don't have the personal attachment to what it looks like. You're just more concerned about the work and the impact that it's having. And if that means that your purpose is transforming in the vehicle of marriage, then that's where you stand and that's where you give your effort. But you can't know that unless you're in tune with the essence of what that purpose is. And it is multifaceted. It isn't just one job or one career or one thing. It's going to continue to shape you know, the shapes, different shapes, molds, and stuff like that.
And I would say this, inside of marriage, that is day by day.
Yeah.
Wow.
I literally, every time I wake up, every single day, I say, God, and this might sound like a cliche, but what is my purpose today?
Yeah.
Is my focus Ronald and David Bell? You know, what is it that they need from me today? Ronald, my son, not Ronald, my husband. Because Ronald, my husband, might be on the back burner today. And I mean, people might not want to hear that, but that's the truth. There is absolutely no way to give your 100% to every single thing that you have to do. It's impossible. And there's a constant, not even a balance. There's a juggle. There's a pick one thing up, put something down.
You gotta be present.
And you have to be present, you have to be discerning. And that is why God is so important in a relationship. Because the minute you do not do that, you are selfish. You are all about what it is that you're supposed to be receiving.
Wow, that's
You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, inside of marriage, remember this, it's day by day. There are certain days where literally you call out of work because your husband needs you. I mean, everything stops. Mommy, Mom, I can't, I'll call you tomorrow. There are days where 100% I am my husband's wife. There are days where 100% I am David's mother.
Wow.
100% I can't even pay attention to David today because my son Ronald is over here going crazy and I don't know why.
To me, that
My
festival.
God, like it's amazing, and it's only the grace of God. And let me tell you, that is why it's powerful to have a man and a woman in the household. Because can you imagine single parents are the real MVPs? Can you imagine what it's like to have just be one parent, right? With all these different things happening in your life, and so that is why the enemy hates marriage. He does not want marriage to be fruitful, because that is the first thing God told us to do, was be fruitful and multiply. He wants to destroy the very mission, the reason why God created the heaven and the earth, which was to have a family unto himself. That is the reason why earth is created. And so the enemy comes, we're going to wrap it up right here, but the enemy comes to destroy the seed that could grow into that relationship. He comes to destroy not just the person, the purpose in the person. Because if he can come against the purpose in the person, then that's when he's messing with God's will. See, our relationships are beyond us. My husband and I realized we gotta stay together. Like we can't give up. Like I don't care how hard it gets. You know what I mean? That's the commitment that we have. And it's beyond us. It really is a ministry, and it is an example that how many millions of people out here need to see that. They're looking at these celebrities, but it's people like us sitting on these couches with the purpose that we're trying to fulfill, that people are going to be looking at. My son Ronald, you know, he's 5 years old. He needs to see that a man and a woman can stay together and be fruitful and multiply. So that is the reason why we got to stay together. It's beyond the flesh. It's beyond the date night. It's beyond Valentine's Day. Oh my God, it's so much more. It is the purpose that God brought you together. So can we just pray on that? God, I just thank you for this moment and this opportunity. God, I pray that any person that is in this conversation, Lord, God, that you would allow them to do the work. God, everything that was said tonight was amazing and powerful, and I believe that your Holy Spirit was in the midst of it, God. But I pray, Lord, that when we go home and when the camera's turned off, God, that you will begin to pursue a relationship with us. Not only that we will pursue a relationship with you, God, that will cause us to walk directly into our purpose, which would then lead us to the spouse that you have ordained. God, we pray right now, God, that any connection that is made in this room, God, will be one of you, Lord. God, I pray for every viewer that was listening tonight, God, and that you would be able to help them process the things that they heard tonight, God, that they would begin to study the word and go back to Genesis and find out who Adam was and who Eve was and the mission that you gave them, God, to be fruitful and to multiply. God, I pray for every person that is on this panel tonight, God, that they would not make the mistake of marrying the person that would not help them be fruitful and multiply. God, I pray in the name of Jesus, God, that they will remember this conversation, God, that you would bring powerful people together for your purpose and your purpose alone, God. I pray that you will give us staying power in our marriages, God, and that in those moments where the enemy attempts to separate us, God, that we will both be able to see, Lord, what is happening. God, we pray in the name of Jesus, Lord, that you would awaken these Adams, Lord, who are sleeping, God. Lord, and in the midst of that the Eves will be working, God. That they will be working in their purpose, God. And so that when the two of them meet, they would know there will be not a shadow of a doubt, God, but that they would be your peace in the midst of their meeting, God. I pray, Lord, and I just believe in your power that you can do it the same way you did it for my husband and I, God. That you can allow it to be so crystal clear that this is the one. I believe that you can still do that in 2017, God.
Yes.
I believe that you can do it, God. And I pray that you can do all these things in the precious, mighty, and holy name of Jesus Christ. We pray, amen.
Amen.
Listen, if you do not know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, I just beg of you. Like, that is the best thing that you can do. I mean, if you don't know what that means, you have to search it out. Get around some people who know God and figure out who God is. That is one of the reasons I started this show. You know, is to help people find their purpose, pursue their dreams, and live their destiny. That's my life's, mission. And I really encourage everyone watching and listening, find your personal mission. I know mine by heart because every day I have to remind myself why I'm here. It's not a joke. It's not, it's not a game. I have fun with it every day, but it's serious because people are watching, and people need to see us, doing what God said. So listen, thank you for tuning in. I hope you still have viewers. It has been almost 2 hours. It has been almost 2 hours, my God.
It shows you.
It's needed. Oh no, we're gonna get a close up of that real quick.
Oh, wow.
But I want to shout out Strikingly Odd Media. Go follow her. She has been the queen behind the camera. And of course, my girl Alyssa over there. And seriously, guys, everybody who took the time out 2 hours on a Monday night to have this conversation, we're gonna have to figure out how to do this in a different format and get more people involved in this conversation. But please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we definitely want to get a close up on this painting over here. James, do you have an interpretation or
About the subject matter.
subject matter? My God,
Wow.
You gotta show that up.
It's like a man and a woman facing each other.
Yeah, so good.
I'm loving it here.
Almost like they're each other's mirror, which is what happens in marriage. It really is.
That's not
And that's amazing.
Right.
Right.
Not at all.
And please follow James White. And real quick, can we just say our names one more time in case somebody wants to connect with you guys?
Oh, yeah.
I'm Dr. Eboni Bell. I'm the host of this evening's show.
Taylor Coleman. Trina Coleman.
Rose Williams.
Kanita Benson.
Jason Aviles.
Chris Hillman.
James Thompson.
Richard Magic Ashland.
Charles Robinson Sneed.
And listen, this has been All Things Women Talk Show. We'll see you next week at 9 o'clock p.m. We're going to have all married women.
Hey.
And I can't wait to learn some stuff from that. And they're older. They've been in there like 30, 40 years. You got to get over that. Love you guys.